Hello, this is Felix on GMWolf. Today we're going to be looking at parenting. So, parenting in GM allows you to have all your code neatly organized in different objects and still have them execute in your other objects. For example, you may have a basic enemy object. So I'm going to call this enemy, represented by this box over here. It may have some very basic features such as, movement, which, still takes quite a bit of time to implement if you wanted to have pathfinding, etc., etc. And, you can have maybe 100 HP and it can get hits, etc. You can add a lot of different, things to your basic enemy object. Now, if you were to add another enemy which didn't have 100 HP but instead just 20 HP, what you may do as a beginner is simply copy and paste this object and change the HP stats. Now, there is a much better way of doing this. You just create a new object and parent it, like so. I'm going to represent parenting by this arrow. And now this new object down here will behave the exact same way as the top object, which may be more or less useful until you start changing this bottom object. Now you may, for example, change it back to 20 HP. And now it will be the exact same object as before, but with 20 HP. And I only had to change one stat. I didn't have to write all the code which isn't here. Now, you can add more features, such as making it fast, etc. And you can also add more different child. So I may parent this one like so, and this one will be maybe the total opposite, a lot of health, and slow. However, it doesn't stop here. You can not only change small properties like variables, you can also change the whole behavior of your object. So, for example, I could add another child here. I'm going to represent it like so, and this one may spawn spiders on death, which is, a mechanic you may want to have if it was some sort of spider hive or something like that. And you can, of course, change a lot of different properties and behaviors of your objects just by adding it, a new event and changing some code, etc. Without really having to change much. Now, this is very, very powerful once you start doing even more different children. So you can have a new, child object down here, for example, parented again, and now this will be a fast 20 health enemy, but on top of that you can make it, glow or something like that, and you can add more and more and more children of that same object. Now, say you've got all your objects and then you realize your movement code is a little sloppy. You actually want it to move towards the player, but on top of that you want to avoid walls or something. All you have to do is change this once. Whoops, it's not very good underlining. All you have to do is change this code once, and it will apply to all of your different objects. If you didn't do the parenting, you would have to change it a load of times. 1, 2, 3, 4 times just for 4 objects. And still, you might want to change it more later on. So it's much better to do it that way. Now, parenting also applies when you have other objects interacting with the objects. For example, you may have your player object here, for example, and when it collides with your enemy object, you want it to die, so let's add a collision event. Now, normally you would have to add a collision event for all of your different enemies, you see, and you end up with a huge list of collision events, all with the same instructions, which is quite, senseless, when you could just have one collision event to your parent object, and all of the other children objects will be included within this collision. So this is it for parenting. Let's look at what we can do inside GameMaker and see what we can do with this small project I have here. So I just have one object over here. It has a simple my speed variable here, and it's supposed to have, but it looks like it disappeared, a very simple line of code going move underscore towards underscore point. Let's go towards the mouse X, mouse Y, at speed, my speed. So this will just be a very simple object that, once placed in the room, will follow your mouse. And it does. As you can see, it simply follows the mouse. Now let's look at how we can make this a little more powerful. So let's add a new object and give it maybe the yellow sprite I created before. Let's call this obj underscore enemy underscore fast. So this will be the fast enemy. All I had to do to make it fast is go inside the create event and call it my speed is equal to 6, which is twice as much as the other object. Now, in order to make it behave like the object before, I need to go inside the parenting over here and click here and select the object from before. So actually, without this event before, let's just take it out so you can see how it behaves. If I just leave it like so, just with the parent set to my enemy object, if I place it inside the room, what should happen is it behaving in the exact same way as the other objects, and it does, which is what we expected. However, now if I change the create event to have my speed equals to 6 rather than 3, we should see it go twice as fast, which it does. So as you can see, we quickly modified the behavior of our original objects inside our other objects by simply adding one line of code, and I don't have to rewrite my whole movement code. So this is just changing a variable. Again, I said you could change the behavior entirely, so let's add another sprite here, call this obj underscore enemy underscore rotate, rotate, and let's have it rotate instead the step event. So what you would do is that inside the step event, let's see if I can grab this, image angle plus equal to 5. So this will add 5 to the angle of the image every step. So this should work, theoretically. However, what you see, if I were to put it inside the room, that is, which I forget very often. This is actually the third time I'm recording this because of audio problems, so yes. As you can see, it's no longer moving towards the mouse, and this is quite a big problem. So the way to go around this problem is with a new function. Now, what is happening is that this new piece of code is overwriting our original piece of code. Now, in order to call the code we want to have, we use a function called event underscore inherited, spelled like so. It takes no arguments, and it will automatically execute the code which was inside our parent object. So now if I press play, we should see that the red object is not only rotating but also following the mouse. Now it's not working for some reason, which I found very strange, and that would simply be that we didn't parent it. Here you go. So now you must remember to parent your object, but now that it is parented, it is moving, as you can see. And if I take out this line, and it is still parented, it will no longer follow your mouse. As you can see, I took away the line and it's no longer following the mouse. So this is how event inherited works. So let's now see how the collision system works. So I'm going to add a new object with this blue sprite here, and upon collision with the enemy object, the parent one, I want it to get destroyed, like so. And now, if I add a bunch of these objects around, a bunch of them, so we can test it with all different objects, we should see that even if it touches maybe the yellow object, or the red object, or just normally the black object, it still gets destroyed, as you can see. And this, may seem weird, since inside our blue object, we only have the collision with the enemy object. But since the other objects are parented to the black object, they still count within this collision, which is really useful. So you don't end up with a huge amount of different collisions for, you know, the same piece of code. So that's basically it for parenting. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you found it useful or just simply entertaining, please like and subscribe. You can put a comment down below if you have a question about parenting, or if you want to have a question about, you know, game programming in general. I'll make sure to answer your question as soon as I can. So I'll see you guys next time for some more interesting game maker features.